Good evening, everyone, and welcome to BAGGGEL Foundation's Fireside Chat with the brilliant and one and only Asif Muhammad. We do this masterclass series. We started about a couple of months back, and we are so proud to hold these sessions with distinguished leaders in different domains that we at BAGGGEL believe are critical domains if you're on your way to becoming a CEO. Today with Asif Muhammad, very happy to Asif have you here. A few moments from you.
Thanks, Supriya. Absolutely a pleasure to be here and looking forward to the conversation that we are to be having for over, I guess, the next hour or so. Look forward to that.
Thank you, Asif. Asif and I go back 20 years. In company that we worked for, and some bonds last the test of time. And I think this bond has just been wonderful and such a great pleasure, Asif, to talk to you again and have you on our foundation. A lot of gratitude and thank you so much. A quick introduction about Asif. Asif is a visionary entrepreneur and technologist currently serving as the advisor to Ubrix Digital. He's also best known for co-founding Momspresso, which is the India's largest digital content platform, by the way, for women, which grew to 30 million unique visitors and 1 billion annual page views under his leadership. Asif has played a pivotal role in establishing and scaling the platform's technology and data teams, culminating in a successful exit to Hansa Consumer Limited, the parent company of what we fondly and happily know as Mama Earth brand. His entrepreneurial endeavors are driven by his passion for leveraging technology and building organizations that empower communities, especially women. How many times in the world are you going to come across someone who's passionate about women? And that person happens to be a male gender. So, isn't that doubly delightful to have him here? Before Momspresso, he had founded mycityforkids.com, which is a hyper-local search and discovery platform for kids service providers. Earlier in his career, he's built a strong foundation in the banking and financial services industry, contributing to the success of FlexCube, which is one of the highest-selling core banking solutions. He's also played a key role in Bankers Realm and BR.net to microfinance institutions such as Equitas and Ujjivan, which later transitioned into full-fledged banks. So you also know Asif has a Midas touch. So after this conversation with his Midas touch on BAGGGEL Foundation, trust me, we are going to go places too. Asif, we are waiting for that. He's a BTech graduate from IIT Delhi. He brings over 25 years of expertise in technology, product development, digital transformation, and building high performance teams. In this podcast episode, we are going to draw on his extensive experience and discuss women empowerment through community. We are going to talk about women going from silence to strength and how technology and Asif can be a catalyst for meaningful change. Asif, here on, I will talk less, you will talk more. So passing the baton to you to say, let's start with your journey. Tell us a little bit about yourself and what shaped you as the wonderful human being that you are, the great leader and the successful entrepreneur that you are. Over to you.
All right. Thanks, Supriya. I think in terms of an introduction, that was absolutely covering up most of whatever I've done, on a professional front. I guess in terms of, what really started off for me in terms of the journey of, being a leader, I need to go back to, my experience at school and at college, which really was what laid the foundations. And I think sport primarily played a tremendous part in the early part of my life, right? And I was an active sportsman in terms of representing both the college, IIT Delhi, in multiple different sport that I played. And that helped me on two fronts. One is obviously in terms of being able to be a part of a team and high performing teams in that sense. So to be a leader, to be able to take forth, a bunch of people, because the sport that I used to play, like most people in India, I guess, is a sport called cricket. And then there were other sports like I was a part of the volleyball team in IIT as well. Best incoming sportsman for the year that I joined IIT, and I think that basically gives you a really strong, I would say, foundation in being able to go out there and learn what it takes to become, I think, a good leader. I'm not very sure what great leader, but yeah, it really makes it the solid foundation to becoming a good leader. So that's where it really started, and I think professionally has given me multiple opportunities where I've been able to go out there and work on this. My first, I would say, after graduating from IIT, my first job was with a company in the technology space, which was called CityCorp Information Technology Industries, CITL at that point in time. One of the few product companies that existed in India in the late 90s, and focused on the banking segment. I was one of the initial team of 150 people who helped with the development of this core banking product, which scaled to become the largest selling banking product in the world. I think we did that in probably 5 years time frame from the time that we launched the product. It is absolutely brilliant. And then I think the journey, it moved on. Company listed and also became one of the few companies that got in 2005, which was bought out by Oracle, one of the early buyouts that happened in the Indian software industry, and got a kind of a glimpse to how exits happen at that point in time. And moved on to join a US based startup, and I think that's when we guys interacted. And then the startup I joined, 3 months of me joining them, the I would say startup in the US went into issues, and what we managed was to get the India operations, which I was taking care of, and a team of 40 people to actually merge with the company that you were working with, which was Crane Software at that point in time.
That's
And I
right.
remember distinctly, how the merger actually went off quite well, because we were able to retain a bunch of people even after the move, and were able to actually get ourselves into the organization quite well. As Providence would have it, 3 years after that stint is when the entrepreneurial bug bit me, because I was like, if I'm doing this for someone else, why can't I do this for myself? When I was setting up like a full-fledged practice for cranes, right? And I think that itch always was there. And that's when I moved out to set up my own IT services company, and then met up with a couple of friends, Vishal and Prashant. And the idea of the demographic dividend of India at that point in time was so strong, and we were really wanted to do something in the kids space. Actually, that's where the entire journey started. And My City for Kids was a product of that, which was a search and discovery platform for kid service providers. And I think we basically built on that idea. It so happened that we were three dads who are running a platform. Surprise, 80% of the people who are coming in to actually look for things to do with their kids were the mums.
How was that experience, Asif? It is so heartwarming to hear that. Here are three dads, like you rightly said, and the whole world talks about motherhood and very little conversation or appreciation, if I may say, on fatherhood. And here are three men leading the charge.
But the point of it though is that we had a great set of women working with us as well, right? At the end of the day, I think that's also something that really helped us. But yes, it was actually for us. We didn't expect that this would be the way it would pan out. That 85% or 85% of everybody coming onto the platform would be the mums only, and not the
Did
dads
you
as such.
expect? Did you expect dads to come up?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. And when we saw the numbers, is when we were a little taken aback, right? And I think that's where the natural progression to transforming the platform from, into a platform for a voice for women actually started off. And I think the
Amazing.
the the journey of Momspresso started off, very simply by just providing a space where these moms could come and share their experiences, right, with a larger community. And that actually took off a life of its own. And when we saw that work, I think that's when we said, we are onto something here. And I think we were one of the earliest then who went vernacular in terms of the content being created itself in the language. So I think that was, again, a step that made us different from whatever existed at that point in time, and helped us scale quite tremendously.
Asif, I'll pause here. I would love to know these pivots. In the entrepreneurial world, pivots are so beautifully spoken of, right? And sometimes you realize that though they are calling it pivot, the entire model has changed. Business model has changed, focus has changed, audience. So, can you, for our benefit and the users who are going to listen into this powerful conversation, spend a little time in demystifying this pivot? That what were you doing? Why did you pivot? Was it driven out of, like serendipity, or was it to say, actual conversations with three of you sitting together? A little bit more time on that.
So I think the three of us, we all come from backgrounds where we've handled P&Ls and run businesses that at the end of it were to make money. So and I think with My City for Kids, when we started it off, and the platform grew on its own. We're talking about a time where the fintech revolution wasn't the way it is right now in the country. There was no UPI, none of this existed back then, and we were able to scale the platform from a monetization point of view to a certain level, and then we found it that scaling beyond that was going to get tougher, right? So we were like, it was a hyper local model, and monetizing from small businesses in this particular space seemed to be quite tough. Obviously, we could have gone out and done a lot more other things, but I think capital also was not so easy to come by to be able to pursue some of these options that existed, right? Which is where we took a call then that this specific business to scale beyond to make it like a largely profitable business would be quite tough. So there has to be something else that we have to work on. And that's when the idea of just opening up the platform to get. So we did a survey with the audience to understand would they be comfortable sharing their personal experiences with others in the community. And I think we did get very positive feedback on that. And then we started it with the English language. When we got a good, I would say, start to it, which happened in English, we said that, okay, I think India has got a larger audience, which is vernacular, and clearly they don't have space where they can speak about it. And again, we need to understand that this was pre the entire video format age which happens, right? It was still at an age where textual content was king, right? And I think a lot of people, especially when you look at it from tier 2, tier 3 cities, were a lot more comfortable writing than actually coming in front of a camera at that point in time, right? And then textual content then is what gave us the kind of scale that we needed. Right? So the pivot per se happened purely from a commercial point of view for us trying to figure out, okay, what are going to be the better ways of monetizing, and that's how we moved on to opening up the platform. But then when that took its own life, it gave us a sense of the fact that we were onto something. It was good for us to keep working on, and hence then we pivoted the model and said, this is what we're going to work on. We're going to build a larger community for women.
Brilliant, brilliant. So just move from mothers to all women. Would that be a fair assumption to say?
Yes, we started though very heavily on the mom's side. That's where it
Yeah.
was naturally, because from My City for Kids, pretty much everybody who was coming in there were mums. So we started off with moms, but then we then slowly, increased the lay of the land out there in terms of the content that was being added onto the platform. So
That's
it was
nice.
once we went into relationships and that kind of content coming onto the platform, then we were able to move it across not only with mums, but with other women as well.
Brilliant, Asa. This is fascinating, and congratulations to you for actually getting into the mind of women and that famous book and all that, What Women Want, right? It's brilliant. I love that Mel Gibson movie, but you guys actually did it. And you continued with it and made a flourishing business out of it and gave voice to women. Asa, questions. When I run the foundation and we ask them to share their stories of 3Gs, greed, grab, and grain, a lot of times we have to ask our members to say, could you write a story? Could you tell us? We have some questions we ask. And a lot of times, these are senior women, CXOs and above. I hear a comment saying, I don't have a great story to tell. I don't know what to write. Everything is normal in my life. I don't have accept. Did you hear any of these challenges? Did you encounter with women wondering what will they write and how did you get them to talk so much or write? What strategy worked for you?
I think this is where I think the fact that we had a great team really helped, because yes, everybody, there are certain stories that clearly come to mind, which we're not talking about that where people really know what they want to write about, right? Then there are places where you need to be able to give them a direction, right? Either a prompt or give them something in terms of which can be an idea that gets them to think in a certain way, and then
Brilliant.
a lot of them are able to go out there and build a story, and then probably bring a personal anecdote which is able to relate to that particular story in that sense, right?
Got it.
And I think that is really important. And what worked really well for us is the fact that we had editors in every single language who worked with us. And I think the beauty of the platform was we never went out trying to translate content from one language to another. And I
Amazing.
think that is in essence something that gave a lot of value to people coming onto the platform, because they were reading content that was being created or written. Because when you write content in a particular language, there's a different connotation to it versus trying to translate it from one language to another.
We've all seen dubbed movies and we all know what gets said and what gets missed, and
Absolutely.
how flat they fall for the for the lack of context, colloquial feel of it. Yeah, the emotion being more plastic.
I think, see, the thing about it is people would share normal stories, right? But the fact of the matter, though, is what is normal for me could be very different for somebody else, right? And I think that's what communities help, build, is the fact that, some, and I might consider what I'm doing as very normal, whereas somebody else might actually come out there and say, wow, you're doing a great job because this is such a tough thing that you're doing, right?
You just got me to the next question. You must have seen telling a story of one person transforming that individual because you're telling, and so many lives getting inspired. How have you seen some of these transformations happen? Because that's when the community actually comes live, right? The impact is happening, which is why people are joining, which is why people are sharing. Then becomes a very virtuous cycle.
Absolutely.
What do you think was clicking? What was working?
I think, like I said, I think it's the fact that one is, we were sticklers for quality. So one thing that we always did from the very beginning was the fact that yes, we respect the people who want to contribute to the platform, but we as much also respect the people who are coming in and spending time in terms of consuming the content on the platform. So we made sure that it was only quality content that went up there, and I think there is where you will see that the platform really grew purely because people were able to come in here and read good quality content and content which were all personal stories. So in a way, people were able to relate to them. And I think there were lots of themes that we worked on, right? And I think one of the biggest themes for us was this whole theme about you are not alone, right?
Nice.
And I think that bit of it worked really well for the platform because what it made people understand is there are other people, because you just need to understand that somebody sitting in Ranchi in their house, a housewife, and she's going through whatever that she's going through, they always feel very alone in this whole situation.
You're a woman's man, Asif, and I mean it in the best possible way. You
So they share
understand
this.
them.
Yeah, when they share their stories and they have tons of people from everywhere else actually, writing out there and saying that this is exactly something that's happened to me as well. And just knowing that you're not alone in this, right? And somebody else is also going through a similar situation in itself is something that really helps a lot of these women deal with the situations that they are in. And I
Oh,
think that's something that we saw happening, right?
we talk about so many women forums in corporate, Asif. I'm going to switch a little bit and see what impact that you've created with Momspresso. All of the organizations have these women network. There are organizations, there are foundations, there are for-profit organizations there, and yet somewhere I believe we just aren't slicing and dicing this entire problem enough. And we are still dealing with a situation where all of us are required to make special effort to include women. Where are we missing? What are we missing? And now we even branding saying, "Ho gaya, bahut drama ho gaya. Let's go back and do this." I mean, we've done this women brigade too much. I have women making fun of this feminism, saying, "What is this feminism?" There is so much of now drama associated with this, unfortunately, lack of impact associated with. What do you think we are missing?
I mean, to put a finger on exactly what is missing in this is quite tough. But what I can say is that there are barriers to women. Especially when I look at it. When you look at it from a perspective of working women, right? There
Yeah.
are tremendous amount of barriers that exist. I mean, for one, we have huge societal barriers that are existing. There are obviously the stereotypical thoughts or mindsets in which women were being placed. Hopefully, we are moving to a place where we were trying to break down those stereotypes, right? But I think it requires still a lot of effort to be put in, on multiple fronts for us to be able to actually. This is like 50% of the planet, right? Is women, and to give them equal kind of representation in the different, I would say, opportunities that exist out there. So I think breaking down barriers is the way forward, and I think communities will help that happen. Clearly, what communities help with is in building confidence. These are ways by which we can find women getting back, especially when I have to talk about it from an perspective of women getting into employment and getting into leadership roles and so on. I think one place that can really help is helping finding a community which helps with building your confidence. It helps with connecting you with somebody else who's also a leader in that sense, where you're able to learn from them and their experiences. Clearly, on the corporate side, there have to be a lot of changes, and I think we do see some of those happening. But whether it's policy driven or otherwise, we will need to see a lot of inclusive kind of initiatives that need to take place, right? If you just look at India right now, some of the numbers that are there are clearly out there, and they tell you a picture, right? 37% is the female employment rate in the country, and it hasn't moved drastically much, right? I think we were 25% in 1950s, and we are at 37% now. Yeah, and the fact of the matter though is that we are also a growing economy, and we would like to be where we want to be. There is this vision of a 2047 vision that exists,
Yeah.
and clearly that vision is not possible to be achieved if we do not have representation of women in employment. And clearly that has to be an area that will have work to happen, and communities in that sense will play a tremendously important part purely from a leadership point of view. And what you guys are doing, for instance, out here, mentorship, coaching, training, helping women come back, because again, there are obviously these, like I said, societal biases that exist, right?
True.
Which is
True.
where, for instance, women are required to take a break because of the fact that maternity is a reality, and women go through that in terms of physiological changes, and they require that time where they are required to take a break. But I think we need to try and see how we can facilitate them coming back from that kind of a break. Yes, there
Brilliant.
are changes happening on maternity leaves and so on right now, but I think there's a lot more that can be done, especially when you look at how can we support women coming back to work. How can we make workplaces more conducive to something like that? Also, from a societal point of view, this whole nurturing and caregiving is somehow seems to be a very is something that is forced. I would say thought of as only a woman's job, right? But I think that also is slowly changing, and hopefully we will continue to see changes happening on that front. And then we need that to happen, because clearly for the kind of vision, at least that we have for this country, it really needs to happen.
Oh, brilliant, Asif. I think anybody in the corporate is listening to this, and we will obviously, talk about this a lot more. I think there are tons of pearls of wisdom here. Communities play a big role. I think we have opportunity on a land of 140, 150 crore to come up with a lot more communities. Clearly they give them confidence. I've heard great stories of BAGGGEL Foundation, and we are a small little baby in the entire sea and ocean of great other organizations that exist. But I think that's brilliant. And there needs to be a lot more on breaking barriers, because we have terrible household inequities and child care. I think it's not so much as childbirth, but more child care. It's like I have a private joke that runs to say, it's not PTM, parent teacher meeting, it's MTM, it's mother teacher meeting. Because I know very few dads who, again, my generation is Gen X, but I don't know, the world is changing, I believe.
Yes.
But if it's changing for women not to have kids, then we're talking about a completely different demographic, unwinding itself, and we'll have different problems to deal with. India, it's been a great plus of demographic dividend, but if women so choose, it is their right.
Yeah.
It may be not great for the country, but it's individual choice. Have you seen this in your My City for Kids, that is becoming more MTM, mother teacher meeting, than PTM? I know you touched upon it a bit, but do you
I
have a
guess
view on this?
it was representative, right? In the fact that we had 80% mums were there on the platform.
It
So
was.
yeah,
It
clearly
was.
representative.
So it's not childbirth, it's also childcare and growth that becomes. So this is brilliant. I think there's great conversation on you, Momspresso, and how, the community grew. Talking about leadership now, Asif, when you were building Momspresso, you were pivoting. It's not a small feat to run such a big subscriber base of people who are interested. There's a content creation. I mean, the entire machinery is so well oiled and running. What can you share with us about some of the tough leadership decisions that you had to make, and what within you helped you to make those decisions?
In terms of tough leadership decisions, I guess one of them that really comes to mind is I remember we had this was, I think, during the My City for Kids times, that we were obviously a platform that was looking to try and see how we can make kids' lives better by ensuring that they get access to, there was a lot of stuff happening in the kids' services space. There were lots of new people coming in terms of hobbies and sports and, enhanced learning classes and so on, right? And we had Coke, I think, or one of the large, what do we call these beverage makers actually approach us from a point of view of wanting to sponsor the platform, right? And this was a call that I think, given the fact that we also had a bunch of mums on our side, where there was vehement negativity, the fact that they don't want this association, right, to happen. And I think that was one of the toughest decisions for us to make, because of the fact that we were at that point in time actually struggling in terms of revenue, and this was a pretty large deal. It would
Oh
have
my God.
taken us like to a pretty, I would say, next level in that sense. But I think we still went out there, and because the mums who were working within the company had this strong belief, we went with it and said, yes, we will listen to what this is, because this is core to our platform, right? And
Outstanding.
yeah, we took that decision not to go ahead with that sponsored, with that deal that was coming through, right? And I think at the when in hindsight, it all worked out well for us, because there were tons of others players that we could still work with, and we could still build our own revenue model coming out from there. So yeah, I mean, I guess that's one of the I would say things that sticks out there.
Wow, being a founder, walking away from deal when you really need money, and then sticking to your core truth or what you stand for are stories that you hear very little of these days. So, congratulations on being who you are and building what you built. Congratulations. That is brilliant. Staying on that, technology played a huge role, right? You're so pivotal, so critical to what you did at Momspresso. Today, when you look at it, what could be some of the innovations, technological things that women can probably ride and get to? So basically, my question is, how does tech shape the future of, women communities or the women coming mainstream into creating, which I would fondly call a balanced world?
Well, I think technology is clearly something which is an enabler, right? So when you look at it right now with all the talk that's happening, around AI, you will see that a lot of communities will obviously have a large chunk of AI being a part of it, right? So for instance, if I look at it just for an example, you can have communities where mentoring is something that's being offered, and you can have AI help you with that in being able to identify who's the right mentor for someone to work with, depending on what is it that a person is looking for, right? And so in Momspresso as well, we used a tremendous amount of technology. Like I said, we were one of the earliest to get onto creation of content in vernacular or local languages. We were also when we saw that long form content was becoming difficult. I mean, again, when we hit this place where we were getting a lot of long form content, but it wasn't like growing tremendously, because creating long form content requires a lot of, I would say, initiative. It also requires a pretty different kind of thought process. And we wanted to involve a lot more people into the whole creation process. So we quickly launched what we called a 100-word story format. So we created different formats. We created a format where people could upload their own pictures and then write content on that. So it became more social and things of that nature. And for
Brilliant.
Momspresso My Money, which is a platform where women could earn money on the platform, we also implemented machine learning quite some time back, where we ensured that the right women were matched with the right brand for the campaigns that brands would put up on the platform, right? And as you move forward, I think communities, learning is clearly an area which I'm convinced that AI will clearly come into play, to have a personal kind of an. People talk about personal assistant. Yes, personal assistant who's able to also give you personalized training is the way training will move forward, right? So clearly that is another area where technology would come into play.
Oh,
Yeah, I mean, I think it's basically support. Creating support networks is primarily what it is, whether it's peer to peer or community to individual, right?
it's very interesting. I love the way when you said it, like I'm walking away with so much learning because you can be a woman, you think you understand women, but clearly it took a man, three men to understand women at a completely different level. And
I'm
I
not
think
very sure if we understood women though.
you facilitated their understanding and connecting, if you may. But of course, you understood. Come on, Asif, and you with your great team, for you to listen into your women and say that let's not do this deal. For me, trust me, that was you valuing the ethos of what you were creating. That's wonderful. I have another question on that. I'll come to that quickly. But this one, when you're creating, I love that long formats. Yes, had its own place. 100-word format. Sending a picture and saying have your story. So I think there are various ways we must look at it. And clearly, what I hear you saying is that you can go wherever you want, but community is a great via media to get women together, to have their voice elevated, to feel empowered, to feel confident, and then kind of, create that sisterhood. The feeling that I'm not alone. I mean, there is so much learning in what you're sharing. It's like, one sentence has a full one book behind it. I think you and I can write a chapter on, a full book on I'm not alone.
Yeah.
There are others. And we may talk about tier 2, tier 3 metros, all of that, and great places we live with across the world. I have seen in the last 10 years that I relate a lot more to the world of women than men. It just so happens that it takes very little. I was there at a recent conference. I just said one sentence that, hey, something happens in my house, and on a weekend when I go, I have to say something to my husband, and it's almost like I have to tell why am I not there on a weekend. And there are 4 or 5 women who walked up and said, "You have to do that." I'm like, "Yeah." And nothing about me tells me how to do that, or I have to do that. We had such a great conversation, and we will catch up for coffee and all. So these triggers are very micro, baby
Yeah.
triggers, are what you say, and it opens an entire world. We are talking about lot of women, giving them voice, but there is this entire aspect of men. Did you at any point of time say, "Hey, let's include men in this. Hey, let's figure this out"? I know at Bagel I always wonder, should I include men? Should I include more men? Or should I make it like a mixed thing? And then always the women say no. We are okay with one or two, but we want this to be a women forum. Then if this is only women, Asif, my larger question is, one, did you ever think of including men or fathers or dad or spouses? Second, if we continue this way, the men will continue to remain, if I may say with due respect to them, uneducated, unaware. And today 85% of the corporate is still men, Asif, on a large scale. So yeah, complicated question, but for you
Yeah, I
it's
think
child's play.
so. I mean, to answer that, there are quite a few questions in that, right?
Yes, yes. Sorry about that.
So yeah, I mean, we were quite clear that this had to be a platform for women because I think the essence also is this that we wanted to create a safe space, because unfortunate part of a social or community-driven platform is the fact that there are certain elements who come in and ensure that the safety of a space doesn't remain, right? And that was extremely critical for us, right? And which is why, although we did not specifically, I mean, there were a few dads who actually used to write on the platform, right? And women who used to enjoy reading what they used to share, right? Because, but then obviously on a larger piece, I would say that we definitely did not want too many, of the stories from the men's side to come in because finally it was a platform that was targeting women.
Got it.
So I think that is a clarity, and I think for you guys as well, I would say that don't get involved with trying to be everything for everyone, right? It's very clear. You
Got it.
need if it is women that you're targeting, then just focus on just that, right? And because I think it's very important that, for instance, from a safety point of view, right, for us to expect somebody who's sitting in a smaller town and then to share something very personal and deep out there on a platform. I think it's imperative that they feel that this is safe and it's not going to somehow come back and
Right.
get them into a lot of trouble or in that sense them being called out for it, right?
Beautiful.
Also to ensure that they're not being judged for what they're sharing. So I think a lot of those need to come together in our decision of saying that okay, let's just keep it as a platform which is targeting only say women.
Brilliant.
So that was to answer the question that you had. And in
Yes.
terms of education for men, I think that's a separate thing altogether. There needs to be different initiatives that need to go out there. But again, I think it's something which is probably going to start from the household, right? And it is something that is going to happen as we keep moving forward, and the generation moves from one to the next. There would be those conversations happening, fathers to daughters, daughters to their children, right? And hopefully, in a couple of generations, I would say that particular issue also will get in a way addressed. And the more we keep talking about it, though, I think the important thing is to find more forums and more avenues by which we can keep talking about these issues and communicating with the larger community, and that will ensure that that message goes across, right?
Brilliant. Keep the dialogue on.
Yeah.
I love that. Keep it focused. Keep the missions of women communities focused. Keep the dialogue on. And of course, figure out a way how to involve dads, fathers, spouses. Father involvement is so easy, Asif. I think the moment they have a daughter, it's like their whole world changes. Yeah. Where do you see the future of Asif, the communities, women led communities, going in the next 5, 10 years? What do you see as? What do you see happening here?
I think, like I said, I think the fact of the matter is that we will see technology hopefully starting to play a lot more of a part, right? But I think it's more also, especially when you look at it, say from a leadership point of view, when we're talking about the working space, and we're talking about women leaders, then we will obviously try and create more global communities as well, because ideally we need to take leadership lessons not only from the people who are here but also global leaders who exist. So communities on those lines would be powerful. And technology clearly will play a part because I see that like I mentioned, training and mentorship and coaching, all of these will be driven a lot by technology as you move forward, right?
Very personal. Yeah, go ahead.
I think that's primarily the way I see some of these communities, building, right? That I don't know about peer-to-peer support. Again, you do have smaller support groups and networks, but I think that is also quite important because there are certain issues, concerns that from a gender point of view, very specific, and they require those closed spaces which are, again, have to be extremely safe, non-judgmental spaces where some of these conversations need to happen, right? So I think that will again be something that will be created. It could be a social network of some kind, but maybe a professional social network where people are able to then not only speak about professional issues, but have a fork off into a personal side as well.
Brilliant. Asif, you said it so beautifully. At the end of the day, it's, feeling safe and feeling not judged. It's like I always say that if we are, and everybody says that, it's not my personal. If you're talking too much, then you're vocal. If you're quiet, you're submissive. If you're very, very clear about what you want and your focus, you're aggressive and ambitious. And if you aren't, then you're just like, average. It's almost like we haven't found the right dictionary for women yet. It's almost like there is an entire world of men, and when women are trying to fit into it, they are being called out either too low or too high. But we haven't got a median set, I would say, on our standards. So the journey is
You need to
on.
create your own standards.
You need to create your own standards. Thank you. With you around, we're going to work with you, Asif. I'm making this commitment online, but we're going to invite you at a strategic session of Bagel and partner with us, guide us on saying what more can we do. We have our ambitions of launching online community, or we'll get chatting more on that. But we would learn so much from you. And our only difference is our space is not for profit, but when has that stopped anyone from doing something great? That enables us actually to make it more about them, because we don't have any touchwood, any investor pressures, which also is a reality. Asif, I've known you for 2 decades now. What makes you so humble?
I think
This
what
was a
you
direct question. Tell me.
I don't speak too much.
So
No, no,
let's
I
just
think
speak and be found arrogant? Is that what
no,
the.
no, no, absolutely no. I think the fact of the matter though is, a lot of the success that I attribute is to the teams that worked with us. Like I keep mentioning, I think, in this I have to also, call out the fact that I had two fabulous co-founders who worked with me through the years, right, Vishal and Prashant. I think the journey of building something like this and with all of them together was absolutely fabulous, right? And I think as long as we're able to see it, that it was a collective effort
Yeah.
that ended up with all every day there were some small wins or the other. When we heard like somebody writing in and saying this changed their life, right? Ability to be able to come here and actually just voice out what they had
Nice.
as a concern or to speak about what they were going through was in itself was such a a situation that gave them so much freedom, right? Just
Wow.
the very fact that they were able to share. I think the some of these small wins were great. I think larger wins were even greater when we, for instance, had there was a blogger on the platform who wrote a story, about "Kahan gaya mera Sunday," right? The I mean, and just having a simple thing like that, and if you were to sit back and just delve on it a bit, right? You will know that that's such a loaded statement, just that one statement, "Kahan gaya mera Sunday," right? And the beauty about it is, this was something that we took up and we ran and we created an entire campaign for Voltas. And the Tata Group, actually, Noel Tata quoted this particular, campaign in one of his speeches. And we had the blogger actually,
The
go
highlights of it, as you shared this. This is such a beautiful thing. You just hit home. Kahan gaya mera Sunday. My God.
so, and then you have somebody, who's writing the story, and then at the end of it, we say that, what, your story has been picked up. Tata has made, an entire campaign around this using this very thing. And, and this is what the campaign looks like, right? And we obviously, awarded her for it and so on, right? But
Yes.
I mean, on the same lines, there were so many of these stories that just made you sit back and think, right? And I think
Share with us some more, Asif. Would love to hear those.
I think there was this मेरे घर की तख्ती पे मेरा भी नाम होना चाहिए, right?
Oh my God.
I don't know, I don't remember now, some of, but then
For those who
there used
are
to be
probably not conversant with
so
Hindi,
many of those,
the name.
unfortunately, I'm biased towards Hindi, but they used to have it
No,
in
that's
so
okay.
many of the other languages as well.
We'll translate it in English. That's saying my house nameplate should also have my name. Oh, that's beautiful. Kahan gaya mera Sunday? Where did my Sunday disappear? Because obviously I'm so busy doing everything for everyone. Where's me in it?
Then
Asif,
we
tell
had,
us more. You just hit the chord at a different level.
घर सबका जिम्मेदारी सबकी, right? So there used to be like some of these were just absolutely incredible. Then there was something which is, as I would say, on a pretty serious note, not every birthday is a happy birthday. And this was a story about miscarriage, right? It was just absolutely, so these were things that give you insights into how or what are the different things that, women as a gender are going through, right? And I think when we see some of these stories and then the kind of relief or the kind of, I would say, value that these women get from the platform when they're able to share something like this, which is so personal, right? I think that is what gave all of us a sense of satisfaction that we were doing something great. Yes, we were obviously trying to create a business as well, but beyond that, there were actually a lot of lives that we were impacting.
My God, you have me completely stumped here, which happens very rarely. I'm still in those stories and titles that you shared to say how much pain behind those, how much of stories behind those, or how much pain. My God. My God, Asif. Do you know, you're right. You created business, you and the two other partners, but like they say, there are various ways of creating business. You guys probably choose the best way to do it. From all our women at Bagel and across the world who will watch this, lots and lots of thank you and gratitude for you, and wish you guys all the best. May each one of you go places. How was the exit, as with all of this creating? Was there a certain emptiness at the end of it all?
Absolutely, absolutely. I think yes, clearly it was because for at least for me personally, the fact of the matter is, it's a long journey that we guys went through because we did pivots, right? And post that, when you actually give away, it's like handing over your baby to somebody else, right? And then you have, what do you do next, right?
Yeah.
I think that gap, it does hit you a bit, but I think the idea is then to figure out, okay, how can we, give back? And in that sense, for instance, I'm an entrepreneur, so I would like to give back to other entrepreneurs. So there are ways and means by which I try and figure out how I can give back to the community by, working with other startups, investing in a few of them, guiding startups, and so on, till I can possibly start working on the next venture of my own.
Yeah, and you just answered what next for us if you said that. So brilliant. Oh, brilliant. And anyway, Bagel is going to be in the queue for your advice and mentorship. And JD, anyway, on the call is definitely also going to be in the queue. Asif, I'm going to do a quick rapid fire. Okay, one thing. Asif is going beautiful. The chords you touch, the wisdom you share, the simplicity with which you do it. A bigger fan after this, Asif. Already a fan, but a much bigger fan after this. Trust you me. One word or phrase that comes to mind, Asif, when we ask you a few things. We've introduced this baby fire, I would say. The most important quality in a leader.
I think empathy is possibly one of the, I guess, most important qualities that a leader needs to have, and which is why I'm a strong believer that women can be such great leaders because I think empathy as a I would say characteristic comes so naturally to women in that sense, but for men as well. I think as a leader to be able to put yourself in somebody else's shoe and then being able to make some of those decisions that you make, I think is extremely important. It doesn't in any which way mean that you don't need to make hard decisions. I think what empathy helps you with is to deal with those hard decisions in a way which is probably easier and smoother, and ideally that would is what will define a between a great leader and a good leader, is somebody who is able to take those hard decisions but keeping other people in mind.
Amazing. So it's not what you do, it's how you do it. That's going to define your mark as a leader. Brilliant. If you were to be born again, Asif, would you choose to be a man or a woman? And for this conversation, I'm keeping it only by focus. I'm not getting into the multiple other with due respect to other genders.
Well, I don't think I would change.
Damn, Asif, this was a trick question.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I mean, I know how hard I would have had it if I would have been born the other side. I
Okay, one
prefer
sec,
it
pause
this
here.
way.
Lots of congratulations to Asif on this one because you consider that being a woman, oh my god, it's hard. So I will choose the easy way to be a man. Asif, lots of respect to you for this one. Super. Bye bye, a man. One is hard. What else? And that was a joke, I mean.
I guess that's what it is. And in any case, I mean, I don't have any regrets in that sense, right? So the fact of the matter is very simply that.
You like being a man, you'll be born again as a man. But I'm going to send a petition to God to say you have all the makings of a woman. So next life, you're a woman, I'm going to be a man. Okay, we're going to switch. I'm done with the toughness of life now. I want it a little bit easy. Sorry, a lot easier. One piece of advice from you to women who are stepping into leadership.
Back yourselves, don't second guess. I think that's very, very important. Basically, I think confidence, and backing oneself is extremely essential, and especially for women who are getting into leadership positions. I think that's the one place that I keep seeing, whatever I've seen interacting with people as well, is that is something that is where the gap usually comes in.
Brilliant. Believe in yourself, back yourself.
Yes.
Do not overthink second thing. No second guesses. Amazing. One technical competence or any other competence, actually one competence that women need in being CEO ready. Our bagel mission.
Competence that they need.
The women don't have strategic thinking. Women don't have money. My God, there's so much of literature around. So what do you think? One thing that can be, it's like sharpen your arrow. Well, this could help you get there.
I would say probably for free in that sense.
You almost sound like we have it all. Why do you need one thing? You have
Yeah, I
it
mean,
all.
I'm just trying to understand what would be that one thing. Like I said, I think
Yeah,
the only thing which I saw missing was the confidence part of it,
confidence.
right? So I think,
That's
belief in
fine.
oneself, right? So
Yeah.
I think that's the one thing that I would say that would help women,
Way to
especially
go with that. Way
get
to go
into
with that,
leadership
Asif.
position base. Yeah.
Yeah. And CEO is being absolutely the apex of leadership. We'll go with that, which is being, believe in yourself. Super. A book, podcast, or any resource that kind of helped shape your journey.
I think if I have to look at it from the entrepreneurial journey point of view, I guess the Lean Startup is one book that I would suggest any person who's trying to start off their journey, because that's been one of the go-to books for me when I started off. And it's what helped us basically. Eric Ries's book called The Lean Startup, and it's basically about how you need to be quick, MVP,
Yeah.
iterate, feedback, then try and get to that product market fit as early as you can. And once you're there, then look to scale, right? I think that's
Got it.
the model that basically it speaks about in that particular book. And that was a good one. I think a lot of the people who are starting off, at least in terms of being entrepreneurs, that's a good book to start off with.
Brilliant. Well, noted down. Lean startup. Final rapid fire. A moment you're most proud of in your life journey. I like the way you laugh, Asif.
There are obviously a lot of moments that
You can say a couple.
you could, right? Um, like I possibly mentioned one of it before. This is that when we actually were able to be this conduit that was able to give a voice to a woman who was sitting writing this story, and to see it on big screen in terms of a campaign being created for one of the largest groups, right? And to have Noel Tata speak about it, right? I think that in itself was a tremendous amount of pride. The fact that we were facilitators to something like that, right?
Beautiful. Beautiful.
On a personal level, I would think that every single thing that a child does, for a parent is a moment of pride in that sense. So whether it's their first step to their first word to, I guess, everything that happens in life.
Beautiful. Do you know a compliment? You sounded just like a mom. Watching my child take the first step and every little step that he or she takes towards the journey. You just spoke like a mom. Asif, congratulations. Trust me, there are bets going on right now with the who are listening in to say Asif a woman next Janam. Okay, don't
All
kill me
right.
if that happens. And by chance, if you remember. Asif, there's a question from Ananta, a Bagel team member. Could you share a real life example from your personal professional experience where effective communication led to a breakthrough or a significant success?
Effective communication. There would be a lot of instances where effective communication, because we were a platform where people were writing stories, right? So they were communicating in one which way to the
Yeah.
audience on the other side. And if I were to draw parallels, I think we were probably the platform that created the largest number of authors in this country.
Wow.
Because if you looked at it, there were so many writers who wrote on Momspresso who then went on to become published authors.
Oh my God. Wow.
Photograph of our community manager who she shared this with us. There was a whole stack of books of, I think, 20 odd books, which were of authors who, used to basically wrote on Momspresso. And a bunch of them actually started their entire journeys of even writing on our platform. So I think that's where I would say, effective communication clearly is the
Very good.
outcome of it is you find yourself as a published author.
Outstanding. Ananta, I hope that answers it. I love the answer. I love that. Momspresso just paving way for multiple authors to come to fore. I mean, that's amazing. And brilliant careers being, made in the process. There's a question from Lena, another BAGGGEL member, wonderful member. Where should someone begin? I love this question. Where should someone begin with if someone wanted to replicate or build Momspresso again?
I think for us, actually, at that point in time when we started our journey, we obviously used a social media platform like a Facebook, for instance, to be able to get us a lot of the audience. But the important thing was we ensured that the audience came onto our platform to actually consume the content, right? Even though Facebook would make sure or try as much as possible that they should be on Facebook consuming the content. But these were early days where we were still okay. Post that, if you look at it, Instagram right now, it's almost impossible for you to get out of Instagram. Allow links and stuff like that anymore or whatever in Instagram, right? But yeah, that worked for us. But if you were able to solve the problem of being able to get people onto your platform, then I think, like I mentioned, an emphasis in terms of ensuring quality of whatever content goes onto the platform is essential. Because I think the important thing is also being able to respect the person who's coming in to actually read that content. Because you need to be as respectful of the person writing the content and the person reading the content, because you need to give them value for their time. And I think that's where it starts, right? Again, if you're able to give that value for time, you're achieving, you're ensuring that that person keeps coming back to you.
Amazing. Trust me, while in our endeavor to get this foundation going and on other endeavors where I work with other, organizations and every woman who does that, I think that's also a great takeaway that while you're writing, are you doing justice to the person who's reading it? It's not so much as what you write, equally important is someone who reads it. I think that's amazing. And again, the simplicity of how you said it. Aparna from our team shares, she's again a great member. 4 life changes that women go through. This is more a comment. Marriage, maternity, motherhood, menopause. Absolutely. Mona is asking a question. You touched upon maternity break. That we all know women go through physiological changes and all that, and yet the society neglects all of this to understand. Why is that? I mean, just your view on it, basically.
I think it's basically, I would say, trained, right? The mind is trained that way, from the time that we are growing up, and that's what's been said, and that's what's been heard, and that's what's then acted out. And as long as what's being said is changed and what's being heard is then changed, we will see that flow into action, which is people changing the way they perceive. Or it's not actually perception. The fact of the matter is the understanding of the reality of a life-changing event like motherhood.
Brilliant, brilliant. Super. We also have a comment from Babu who's saying, seeing you both exchange ideas and sharing insights. This is one of your ex-colleagues from Analytics BU and a lot junior to you from Crane Software. Thank you, Babu, for joining in and taking a moment to remind us of you. And very warm. Brilliant question. I love that. Mona, what power? And Asif, we will just stretch this. We usually do this crisp 1 hour, but we'll take a minute or two more just to get all the questions in. What power do today's moms have on shaping men of tomorrow? All of the questions.
Well, I think I think I did delve on it a little bit earlier, but I think there's a lot of power which exists, and in the household. I think the household is, in addition to the school, the household is possibly, these two places I would say are very, very critical places where we can make sure that we are able to drive some of these changes. Changes in terms of what is being said, changes in terms of how we are, within the household behaving, relationship definition. A lot of these things, I would say, come into play. And it's important that, one generation to the next, we are able to pass that on. And that's where I would think it's not only the mums in that sense. I would say that, as much, the dads having responsibility in ensuring that that communication happens, right? And which is why it's a movement that has to happen on both ends. But yes, I think there would be other movements happening for the dads and the men, and there would be other movements happening for the women.
It is always a balanced and a very humane perspective. Did you have any experience? This is like more on the entrepreneurial journey. These were questions, I'll say them quickly. You spoke about co founders and you spoke of them so fondly. And I remember a conversation at your lovely home a month or two back that we were like locked. And there was such a commonality of purpose that there were hardly any differences. But the question is, did you have any difference of opinion with your co founders? And if yes, how did you manage it?
Yeah, I think we preempted this whole thing because we were three of us. So when we came on board, we had taken this call saying that the majority always is the way we will go. And it works really well because we are three, right?
Yeah, it
So,
gives
I think,
itself, lends itself.
yeah, absolutely. We did have difference of opinions on on some issues or the other, and we would try and thrash it out as much as we could between ourselves. And if it was hung as a verdict, then we would go with the majority, and the person who wasn't in majority would just toe the line because that's the way we had decided that we would address things. And I think it worked beautifully for us.
Amazing.
I would probably give that as advice to other founders who are looking at it. Find an odd number of founders to work with.
Awesome. No, that's a great advice. I mean, we can have a whole literature on that. Again, another question, again from Shalu. The first was from Shalu. What was your biggest challenge in being an entrepreneur and how did you personally overcome it? And that's our final question for today. And I will have one and then we'll close.
I think the biggest challenge is for the person, especially somebody who's been in the corporate world before, and is making taking that call to jump and jump ship and go on your own. I think that's a pretty tough decision to make, and you need to be doing it, I guess, for the right reasons. The way I see it right now, actually, with so much of fanfare and stuff like that going around in the industry, somehow it comes across that a lot of people are jumping on the entrepreneur bandwagon purely from the outcome that exists in terms of monetary outcomes, right? But I think that might not be the best reason why somebody should look to become an entrepreneur. And although the outcome can be something that happens, but I think people need to be able to find the reason why they are moving into entrepreneurship needs to be a little more deeper. The fact that they have an idea that they want to work with, that they feel is great, and has an impact, and that ideally is something that should be the driving force. I would say
Brilliant.
that that was my biggest challenge. I overcame it by ensuring that I was able to, so I had a software services startup which I was running in Bangalore while I was doing this particular venture here. So this was the venture which was on an idea for the future, whereas I had a software services startup which was running my house. It worked out well for me when I was doing that. And once the venture here started reach a position where I could draw a salary and be in somebody who's able to sustain from here, is when I decided to then shut the IT services company that I was running in Bangalore and fully focus only on this one.
Awesome, awesome. Asif, you break more than one stereotype, trust me. And I'm sure you've been told this before because it's amazing. Being a dad, starting a business completely into the, understanding first kids and then, of course, women and the overall. That's brilliant setting up Momspresso. Co-founders, well, just do by simple majority where everybody's like aligning purpose, values, thrash it out. You make it so simple, thrash it out, do everything, and at the end, a simple vote of hands works. Brilliant. Well, now you break another stereotype, which is people say, do one thing, do it really well. Jump, quit your job, do it tomorrow. It's so much of, sorry to say, this drama around it and such advice which is not well founded. And then you close it for either lack of funds or the fact that you need to run your house too. You have mouths to feed, responsibilities to deliver to. And you say it so nicely. Well, get one going, stop the other, and figure out which goes where, and then take a very calculated, right call. And thank you for being so honest, so simple, and so successful at what you do. And you do a business which directly runs through our heart. And therefore, a closing message from you to all women in this world, all men in this world. If we were to create ourselves a balanced world where there is equitable, there's opportunity, alike for all, what would your grand message to the world be?
No, I think my message as such would be the fact that we are pretty much, I would say, equally divided on the planet, and resources are equally available to both the genders. And I would say, in that sense, opportunities as well need to be equally available, as long as the competencies again are equal on both ends, right? Equal opportunities, equal pay works clearly from the concept that on the other side we have equal competencies as well. So as long as women are able to, get there in terms of if you're playing a playing field, then if both of them are on the same level, then clearly I don't see any reason why we should not be having equal opportunities for both of them.
Brilliant, Asif. I love the way you said it. Great message. Thank you so much. So I think the focus is on skilling ourselves, equipping ourselves with confidence, and making sure that we enter the playing field feeling unequal and live and and play the match with the equal right to win. And if all of us do that, we are clearly laying the foundation of a balanced world. Asif, it has been wonderful chatting with you. It has been absolute pleasure. The answers are just amazing. The pearls of wisdom that you have said, I'm sure we'll be blogging it all out and learning from you for I think decades to come. Thank you, members, and everyone else on the LinkedIn for joining in. We hope this session was useful and you're as excited as I am listening to Asif Muhammad. And of course, Babu, thank you so much. Lovely to connect with you. We will stay tuned. Thank you so
Thanks,
much,
Supriya.
Asif.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.